Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all of the viewers from around the world. This is your host Vaibhav in today's session of correlation and considering the price action which has been subdued. If we take a closer look to the for on the developments, particularly in the European trading session, the volatility has been quite low and this is pretty much along the expected lines as we are heading into the vacation week. We have the next week, which is a week in which most of the traders will be on vacation. They will be enjoying the money which was made during the year. So now in the last session of this week, prior to the signing off for the Christmas and then the New Year, we have to consider how things are shaping up as we wrap up the week. So let's now head to the JForex 4, the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. This is the USDJPY chart with the candle period defined at 5 minutes each, and for aiding the defining of the trend as well as the relative strength of the trend, I have added the SMA with the calculation period being 12 and 24 respectively. That gives us the average price over last 1 and 2 hours respectively. Now if we consider this Donkin channel range, the 24 calculation period gives us the range for last 2 hours, and this 48 calculation period gives us the range for last 4 hours. So using this we can define how things are shaping up and in relative terms which one is the most bullish or the bearish currency for the day. Now if we consider the USDJPY price moves in today's session, it has been trading mostly sideways apart from these relatively short-lived instances where there was some movement, but after that again it went back to trading in a narrow range of around 20 pips and even less than 20 pips, I think. Yeah, approximately 20 pips. And only after this release of US data we saw some increased volatility, and it was a volatile moment, but here also there is lack of direction. We saw this sharp move first on the higher side and then all those gains evaporated in no time, bringing back the USD pretty much where it was prior to the release. Now again, I think it is very difficult for us to expect any big move in the North American trading session also. More or less, we can expect the USD to close the week and the day somewhere closer to 133 level, as the underlying momentum has been slightly bullish. And if we simply consider its price action, it has been grinding slowly and steadily upwards. So with that in mind, we can expect it to close the day and the week closer to 133, but it is very unlikely that we will see any kind of sharp moves onwards. So we will have to brace for the subdued volatility with this range bound momentum likely to last throughout the US session also. Now to figure out which one is the strongest and which one is the weakest for the day as we head into the North American trading session, we have to consider these moves where we have the USDJPY holding on to these levels. And if we consider the prior action and the swing lows, here it did found support closer to the immediate consolidation low of around 132.20. After that it went on to make this swing low at around 132.43, and that's where this reversal also came in after the release of US data. Now as it is able to hold on to this prior swing low, I think we can expect it to climb back to this upward level of 133 again. And all we can do is keep looking for buying opportunity in this scenario while keeping our stop losses closer to this immediate swing low or thereabout. So that means we will have to go with some extended stop loss at the moment, or else if you get a better opportunity maybe later in the day and you find it consolidating closer to this immediate swing low, maybe you can take your chances therein, as that point in time will entail a significantly lower risk compared to what we have to take right now if we were to go into the trade. Now let's start comparing the momentum one by one. For the Euro USD, similar thing is playing out with this movement being also narrow with around 30-40 pips. So the range for the Euro is more compared to the USDJPY, but also within this increased range, it is also doing the same thing. It is not really going anywhere. So there is not much of a directional momentum. It is simply playing the range which it has been doing for most part of this week. So here, if we consider these moves in today's session, again as expected in yesterday's session of the correlation regression, I had talked about the possibility of Euro USD continuing to decline toward these prior swing lows, and after consolidation we did get the chance to go for the long trade. Even in today's session during the European trading session, there was this opportunity where we could have gone for the long trade while keeping the stop loss below this immediate swing low, and that did work out well. And as things stand here, I think we will have to keep the bias for today's session on the upper side, on the buy side, as we can expect the Euro USD to continue to grind upward with steady momentum, but the pace of increase, the pace of upward momentum is likely to be quite less. So we will do well to buy the euro closer to this immediate swing low. And as in today's session, it is also holding on to these levels on the lower side closer to the support zone of 1.06. We can take our chances, try to play the range, and unless and until there is any significant break with sharp move on the lower side, I think we are pretty much safe. There is not much of an risk. So that level is something we can keep in mind. Now, if we compare the Euro USD's momentum with the USD JPY, the range is just slightly wider compared to the range of USD JPY, and here also we will have to keep this range in mind. On the higher side, we have the resistance in place around 1.065. On the lower side, as I said earlier, also 1.06 is the key. And if we have to then determine if the JPY or the euro is the strongest, then euro has a slightly bullish momentum against the dollar, but JPY is not having any sort of bullish momentum. Rather, it is on the bearish side of the spectrum. So there is difference between the JPY. Both these cases, apparently, we will do well to keep looking for buying opportunities. So here we have the JPY being the bearish one and euro being slightly bullish. Not exactly bullish. It is not even strongly bullish. It is simply going sideways with the slight bias being on the bullish side. Let's see the case for AUD. The AUD has a bearish momentum against the dollar, just like the just like the JPY, which is also slightly bearish against the dollar. So in today's session, the AUD is trading on the weaker side compared to euro. And if we look at its immediate reaction after this US data release, we have this momentum where it is likely to go on to again test this prior swing low. And let's consider its formation on the hourly chart. Here also it is having a formation where it is simply playing within the range with this bias confining it to this prior swing high and swing low. In today's session, I think we have to keep this immediate swing low in mind, and retest of these looks like a possibility. So let's see how things shape up. As of now, as things stand, it is trading with slight bias being on the bearish side. With these immediate swing high in mind, we can keep looking for short selling opportunities. But then the question is, if the JPY is more bearish or the AUD is more bearish against the dollar. So for that, we will have to look at the timeline of the event. So let's compare it. The USD JPY has been going upward even prior to the release it was making these higher high. For the AUD, the momentum was slightly on the uppish side. So keeping this prior formation in mind, I think JPY is more bearish compared to the AUD, but AUD is less bullish than the euro. So we have this ranking in place where the euro being the most bullish against the dollar, whereas the JPY is the most bearish, and the AUD comes in between these two currencies. Now let's compare it with the GBP. The GBP is, pardon me, GBP is having this fresh swing low formation, which is lower compared to the prior swing low. So that puts it ahead of the AUD in this bearish spectrum. So apparently we have the JPY with swing high higher than the prior swing high, and GBP similarly has a swing low which is lower than the prior swing low. So we have to then see if the GBP is more bearish compared to the JPY or the GBP is lagging behind it. And looking at its price formation, I think we have to keep the JPY as the most bearish against the dollar, even after comparing it with the GBP. As prior to this US data release, we had the GBP climbing slightly upward. Only after this release, it seems to be changing trajectory with this sharp move on the lower side. So using this, we can place it ahead of the AUD, but we still have to place it behind the JPY. So if you are trading with the expectation of the dollar to strengthen further in the North American trading session, the first choice should still be with the JPY, even compared to the GBP and AUD. When well, and if we compare it to the euro is having a slight bullish momentum, so it is better to avoid getting involved into the euro while betting on the strength of the dollar. For that, we have a lot better opportunity emerging in the USDJPY. Now let's see the story for USD CHF. The CHF was trading with a slightly bullish momentum, and after this US data release, it did make the swing high, but it is not strongly moving in this direction. Rather, it is volatile, but it is still acting within this range. So as a result of that, we can't say it is bullish or bearish. It is simply going sideways, and it is apparently even on the weaker footing compared to the JPY, which is having a lot more bearish momentum. So we have to place the CHF somewhere middle of the pack. It is not bullish against the dollar, nor it is bearish. So we still have the ranking in place with euro being a lot more bullish against the dollar, and JPY being a lot more bearish against the dollar. Before we can finalize our ranking, let's consider the CAD, USD CAD, and NZDUSD. For the CAD, the weakness is becoming apparent with its decline, pushing the USD CAD pretty close to the prior swing high, but it is still far off from the day's high. At the moment, it is climbing up quite sharply, so but we still have to be careful, and I think moving forward also we will have to place it behind the USDJPY. USDJPY has a better shot at continuing to rise, even though the range there has been shallower, or you can say narrower, compared to the USD CAD. For the USD CAD, the range has been lot more. It made this high at 1.365. After that, it went into decline almost 70 pips on the lower side, with CAD gaining ground. Now it seems to be reversing course, and as a result of that, we do have to place it on the bearish spectrum for the time being, but we can expect it to find the resistance as it approaches closer to these prior swing highs. But it is not a good idea to go for any short sell trade in the USD CAD unless there is a consolidation for next couple of hours, and maybe after that we can think about it. But right now it is having the move which is having a upward bias. So we will have to go with the flow and place it on the bearish spectrum. And if we have to do the ranking, then the JPY being still the more bearish of these two. Before we wrap up the currency segment, let's consider the NZDUSD. With the NZD having these prior swing low form during the European trading session, but it is still above the low form during the Asian trading session. So we have to place it on the bearish side, but it is less bearish even than the CAD and GBP. GBP is a lot more bearish compared to the NZD, and also the CAD is having a weaker run. So in today's session, we have the most bearish momentum against the dollar in the JPY. So I think if you have to buy the US dollar, then the USDJPY seems like a better idea to go with. And if you have to sell the US dollar, then the euro is a better choice to work with. So this is how this formation using the price dynamic and this range along with the average price is telling us. Now let's consider the equity segment. For the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the price moves are pretty much similar to what we are observing in the Forex segment. Here, if we have to now compare this formation of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we will have to consider its range, and the range has been fairly narrow so far. But as the US market open for the trading, we can expect the range to get widen in coming hours. And if we have to then determine the trading opportunity, price declines below 33,000 towards 32,900, we will have to adopt a bearish stance and keep looking for short selling opportunities. As of now, to go after the start of the North American trading session, as this is almost trading sideways for last European as well as for the Asian trading session. So of events, then the bias had turned bearish. So we have to keep that in mind and see how things shape up after the start of the North American trading session. In initial minutes, we will have sharp moves on either side, and that is going to set the tone for rest of the session. Now let's compare the three key equity indices for the United States to see which one is the most bullish and which one is the most bearish so far in the session. If we consider the price formation, this has been with the upward momentum for most part of the European trading session. And now if we compare this price formation between these three key equity indices, we will be in position to determine which one is the most bullish and the bearish for the day. Here, these prior swing highs and the lows will have to be considered, as these moves are almost similar after the US data release. So if we go back in time, it had made this low at 11:15 GMT. After that, this made. And let's consider the development for Nasdaq is having the run on the bearish side. In yesterday's session, it was a lot more bearish compared to the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and it went on to decline significantly as we talked about in yesterday's session. Nasdaq being a better placed instrument to go short, and in today's session the sentiments are somewhat similar. So we have to keep playing with the trend, and the sentiments being a lot more bearish for the Nasdaq, it will be a better idea to keep looking for the sell opportunities in the Nasdaq. So in today's session also, we have slightly more bearish momentum in the Nasdaq compared to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It is almost similar to the S&P 500, but in terms of the magnitude, the moves are much better and a bit wider in the Nasdaq. So I think because of that, we can give better preference